Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Welcome to the show. I'm Lisa Williams. Today, we have someone known as the Queen of Encouragement. Deborah Mars is a graduate of the University of Southern California and the University of Wisconsin, where she received a BS in business and an MBA, respectively. Ms. Mars has over 25 years experience in brand and promotional marketing, in addition to minority business development. She is currently the Chief Creative Officer and Chairman of Gifted by Design, an innovative and thematic promotional products and services agency who is also an emerging business partner with the NFL. The agency services a vast assortment of clients ranging from entertainment to consumer packaging and automotive. Prior to becoming an entrepreneur, Deborah held various positions in brand marketing, consumer promotions, and minority business development with General Mills, Coca-Cola, and FritoLay. She's also worked with Susan G. Komen, BET, HBO, Aspire, and Essence Jazz Festival, to name a few. Through her entrepreneurial journey, Ms. Mars' business savvy and civic leadership has been nationally recognized through such distinctions from FritoLay, JCPenney, the National Minority Supplier Development Council, the Kellogg School of Business Executive Programs, and others. She received the Quest for Success Award and sits on numerous boards. Ms. Mars has also been featured in various publications, including Essence and Black Enterprise magazine. Ms. Mars frequently volunteers her time to enlighten and mentor others on the rewards and challenges of being an entrepreneur. Her mantra is, "Every day is a gift to be shared and live with purpose, joy, and gratitude." Please welcome to the show, Deborah Mars.
Good to be here.
We're glad to have you. Let's get started. Today, we're going to talk about the growing number of Black women in business, how we've evolved, and what it'll take to help African American women in business run successful businesses. Let's get started. Black women have always had an entrepreneurial spirit. From our great-grandmothers who cleaned houses for a living and sold fish dinners at churches, to the many African American women who rose to the tops of their industries, including Michelle Obama, the first African American First Lady of the United States, Sheila C. Johnson, founder of BET, becoming the first African American woman billionaire, Oprah Winfrey, having the #1 daytime talk show in America, Serena Williams, #1 in women's singles tennis, Janice Bryant, owner of the largest minority woman-owned employment agency in the United States, and Ursula Burns, the first African-American woman CEO of a Fortune 500 company. And of course, the list goes on and on. In fact, according to the 2015 State of Women-Owned Business Report, the number of women-owned businesses grew by 74% between 1997 and 2015. The report also stated that 33% of women-owned firms are owned by minority women, and Black females are amongst the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in the U.S. It's wonderful to know that African American women entrepreneurs are the fastest growing segment of entrepreneurs in the U.S. What a great statistic. So it's important that we don't let this momentum die. Now, more than ever, African American women entrepreneurs need resources available to help them not just be in business, but grow in business. The biggest hurdle African American women business owners face is that many are first-generation entrepreneurs, and they lack exposure to other Black women in business that have successful businesses from which they can glean habits and proven processes from. Let's look at an example of just how important having a role model accessible to you can be. Here is what Jessica Alba, actress and CEO of The Honest Company, said about having someone that you can call on.
As far as mentors go, countless. I was not shy about making phone calls to many people. I've been fortunate enough to know people like Tory Burch and Diane von Furstenberg, and they, got lots of emails and phone calls from me along the way with tears in my eyes saying, I don't know if this is possible. Why is everyone telling me no? What do I do? What does it even mean to get venture capital? What is venture capital? What's a board? Like, I just didn't know all these business terms. And so they helped me understand it. And it's nice having women that you can look to and rely on.
Incidentally, her husband, Cash Warren, a Yale graduate, producer, and tech investor, introduced Jessica to his childhood friend, Brian Lee, an entrepreneur who co-founded LegalZoom. And the women Jessica reached out to, Tory Burch, who is a New York fashion designer, and Diane von Furstenberg, who is a billion-dollar fashion designer. Unfortunately, most African-American women don't have the same access and connections that Jessica Alba was blessed with. Black female entrepreneurs need a supportive network of African-American women business owners that we can learn from. It's time to talk, share, and provide resources and roadmaps to Black women in business. We need successful mentors to inspire African-American women on their journey in business. I have lined up a variety of successful, prominent, and leading African-American women in business across many industries to share their paths and secrets to their success. They will discuss their journey not only as women in business, but more importantly, how they grew successful businesses in spite of the unique challenges faced by African-American women business owners. Forgive my cloudy voice, but the show must go on. So let's get into the show.
How about you tell me, how does it feel to be part of this historical time for African-American women in business?
It feels amazing for me, and I think mostly so because my father was an entrepreneur, a man with an 8th grade education, and so to see the type of seeds that he planted in me and come to this point, being an entrepreneur was not on my to-do list or my bucket list, but somehow I backed into it, and it feels amazing, more so because I'm able to provide opportunities to employees and suppliers alike, so it's a good place to be.
So a good story isn't a good story until we can understand where you started. How'd you get started in your business, Deborah?
I started officially with $500. Being creative is really one of my God-given gifts. And so I was running the promotion department at FritoLay, and people were dropping balls and they weren't very creative. And so I figured that I knew I was creative and reliable. I was on the launch team for Chester Cheetah, and I had a supplier that did not deliver the goods on time. In fact, they were 4 months late. So I got the nerve to start the business, and with a lot of prayer and some fortitude, we got going. I spent the first $500 really on branding, developing a logo and letterhead. That's what I spent the first $500 on.
Excellent. Great story. So tell me about your current business. Who do you work with and who do you help?
My clients are evolving and they're changing, and I think that's because I'm getting into a golden age of life, so I get to pick and choose the type of initiatives I want to be involved in. And that being said, the ideal scenario for me is one where people are being inspired and encouraged, something more cause-related. But in the past, almost 28 years in business, our very first client was HBO, and we've worked very heavily in entertainment, HBO, BET, Motown Records, Aspire, and a number of heavily latent in the cable industry. We've been kind of a buddy with cable in terms of watching them grow, and would like to think helping to aid in their growth through innovative marketing. But my clients heavily are in automotive right now. We do some awesome partnership with Ford Motor, Toyota. We've worked with JCPenney's over the years, and the list goes on. And it's kind of hard. I think I shared with you offline that I've worked with so many different people over the years. It's hard to kind of I don't keep a brag list. We just move into the next scenario. But JCPenney, Susan G. Komen, and I love working on anything that has to do with women's issues and causes.
Excellent. Wow. So in any industry, there are things people believe that may or may not be true. What are two needs or problems, real or perceived, that your clients or prospects have that you can help them solve?
One is, first of all, is always budget, and timing. for whatever reason, because I'm in the merchandise business, it's kind of like the fairy dust, if you will, that they sprinkle at the end. But really, if they're going to properly use promotional merchandise, it should be very thoughtful and strategic. And so I find myself oftentimes with clients calling me with a drop date of 2 weeks out and wanting us to create magic. So I would say budgeting and lack of thoughtful planning are the two things that clients have a tendency to really back themselves into. Unlike electronic advertising, if you create and nurture the right promotional item, that's something that has lingering appeal and it's constant advertising. So it makes sense to actually put good forethought into it and use it as an extension of their branding strategy.
Okay. So as an African American woman in business, let's talk about what your path has been like as you've navigated your entrepreneurship.
Okay.
What can you share with African American women business owners about starting, staying, and sticking it through to reach a level of success in their business?
I would say the first thing is, unfortunately, so many people get into the realm of entrepreneurship because they see dollar signs. And I will tell you, as an entrepreneur who has been up, down, and all around, you have to do it because of a passion, because of a love of something that you do. Proverbs 18:16 tells us that your gifts will make room for you and bring you before great men. And I really believe that when you're in your passion and you're working in your God-given realm, that sometimes it doesn't seem like it's working, and you need to be there because there are going to be some long nights. There'll be times when it's tough to make payroll or you don't get paid, and you have to really believe in what you're doing and what your gifts are. So the first thing is passion. The next thing is really being able to multitask and organize is very key, because as an entrepreneur, particularly starting out, you're going to wear a lot of different hats. You'll wear tons and tons of hats. And at one point, collectively with my former husband, we had about 125 employees. And now I use a lot of virtual assistants because I'm evolving into the next phase of my life. And so you learn to collaborate and work smarter. I think that a lot of times new entrepreneurs are very territorial, and they're afraid to share any information, and they're also afraid to share opportunity, when Rome was not built in a day nor by one person. So if you can surround yourself with people that have complementary skill sets such as yourself, you can go a lot farther and row a lot faster than if you're trying to hold everything so very closely to the vest. The other thing is, and something I did not do very well, honestly, is to take time to regroup and to rejuvenate versus just staying on all the time, 24/7. And that's a difficult thing to do, because sometimes your body just will, it will tell you it's tired. You may not think it's tired, but it will give you signs, and you will know otherwise.
Sure. Great nuggets. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, Deborah, what was hard for you? I mean, honestly, think of one of the most challenging times in your business. Can you speak about what was hard for you?
Which time?
And how much time do I have, right?
Right. You know what? Since there are ladies listening to this show, I think one of the hardest things for me was going through a situation. It was years ago, but I was working on a very large project for HBO, and we'd given money to an importer to produce something for us, and they ran with the money. And we had to make good. And it was thousands of dollars. It was lots and lots and lots of money. Luckily, I had just been on a project for Anheuser-Busch, and I'd been to China, and I learned how to reverse engineer. So we actually produced these products stateside. We didn't make any money at all. We probably lost money, but the good news at HBO was we were honest with them. We told them what had happened, and they were so impressed. The problem with that particular project is it put so much stress on me. I didn't know at the time I was pregnant, and I suffered a miscarriage, and that was really, really difficult. And being an entrepreneur and with so many things flailing at the time or spinning around, I really didn't have time to emotionally or physically recuperate.
Wow.
Because when you're in the middle of it, you make it happen. But yeah, I had a miscarriage, and it was pretty devastating.
That is a lot to balance and keep moving forward with, dealing with. And how did you go about that? I mean, once you went through it, how did you make it through?
Well, emotionally, I'm a very spiritual person, so you pray and you move on. And actually, I ended up getting pregnant with a marvelous young woman who's now 23, Zoe. So
Yay.
God blessed us with another child, a second child. But I try to go to bed at night knowing that I've done the very best job that I can do, and that I've been honest and I've been fair. And so I think that's what moves me from one place to the other. The greatest compliment that we could have received was to go from, I'm making this up, but say, $100,000 to $1 million the next year. So it was exponential. And, again, word tells us that God will replace the locust from what the locust has taken from you sevenfold.
Yes.
So I think the key is to really stay honest, and if permissible, there's a little side piece I want to share with you. When I first started, I was about to write a very large 6-figure order early in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I will obviously not name the company, but there was a woman who was a buyer, and she was an African-American female, and she asked me for a kickback, and I was devastated. That first of all, she would see one of her own that was climbing, that she would jeopardize my new business, and even think that I would give her a kickback so that in order to write this order. So that was really frustrating for me, and I had to really pray about that because I wanted to blow a whistle on her, but I didn't. I just walked away from the business.
Wow. Yes, that's quite a bit to deal with.
Yeah,
and how integral,
I mean, money.
Yeah, I'm almost speechless. Yeah, that's a great share. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And so what do you feel that you learned from that situation? As you
just that, away? All money, not to sound cliche, but all money is not good money. And your reputation in business is all that you have. You may think you have clients or whatever, but your reputation is what people say behind your back. And at the end of the day, I want people to say that she's honest, hopefully smart, but that she's honest and she's fair, and she has, ethics beyond reproach. And that's what's really important to me. And I do it all the time. I've walked away from all kinds of money that's been thrown at me.
That's great. That's a great nugget. So we have other Black women that have accomplished great successes, like those I mentioned earlier. But there's many, many more. I mean, from Taraji P. Henson to Kamala Harris, Shonda Rhimes, on and on and on. Can you share a nugget to help women that are just starting in business?
Again, I think the first thing is to do it with honest intent and not for the dollar signs, because the dollar signs are not guaranteed. I would tell you that the majority of small businesses never make it to year 2. They just don't. And don't be in the food and beverage industry. It's almost like a guaranteed failure that's stacked up against you. So number one, you have to do something that is built based on your passion, and then you have to look long term into it, because if you're in there for in and out, then that's a problem. Kind of segueing from that, I look at myself now. I'm at going on year 28, and the one thing that I have not done well is to have a succession plan. My kids are in entertainment. They have no desire to be in this business. So I think building succession from the very beginning, the exit plan, you have to know where you're taking your company. You have to surround yourself with people who have a fiduciary responsibility to you, being a good accountant, a good attorney. I think sometimes you want to skimp on those things, but there's a reason why they're called professionals, and they are professionals in their areas, because there will be times where you have to lawyer up. Unfortunately, people will come up with bogus lawsuits. I've had employees in past that trumped up bogus lawsuits, and you have to be in a state where you can defend yourself and protect your turf, if you will. You have to be knowledgeable about not only the industry that you're going into, if it's not something that you are innovating, if there's a creative base around you, you need to know who your competitors are, and you need to know who your clients are. You should never go into a presentation or an opportunity with a prospective client and not having done some background on them, understanding what their values are. Are they philanthropic? I went to a client recently, and I'll tell you, I was just blown away with excitement by the environment. And I'll tell you, it was Interstate Batteries, and I was blown away. It is a rarity. It's a faith-based company, and just to see the smiles on the employee's face. I'm a people watcher, and so I read the things that were in their lobby and just the whole atmosphere. It's so important to be very astute and mindful of your surroundings. So those are some things I would say. Certainly there's a plethora of lists, but those are things that come top to mind to me.
Those are great shares. So let's have a little fun.
Okay.
If you could share something with your younger self, say 15 years ago, about being in business, what would it be?
Woo, try to have more fun.
Do you know that has been a theme?
Really?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
In this interview series, that has been a theme.
I was so busy being about the work that it was just hard to even breathe, let alone have fun. When I got pregnant with our second child, I was back at work at 10 days, which is absolutely ludicrous.
Yes.
But there was so much at stake, or what I saw to be at stake. It's not all about the money, but I think when you have so much financial overhead and exposure, that you tell yourself that, you're indispensable, which you really are. You are not.
Right.
You are.
It is true.
You're very dispensable, if you will. So I would say really have more fun and take downtime. Rarely did we take vacations. And I will tell you the spin on mine, though, was my former husband and I ended up being in business together, even though I started the company. And I think it's really awesome when couples can work together. In our case, that did not work, and it was kind of an overnight split. And that put such an inordinate, did I say inordinate? I'll say it again, an inordinate amount of pressure on me to survive, and then left to raise two very small children. So then it was really on, and then I had a lot of deaths around me, my father and some other key relatives. And so I was spinning like a top. And I just felt like, with the debt that I was then forced to deal with and what have you, I felt, well, if I just work harder, if I work longer, then this will all go away. And nothing could have been further than the truth, because you can kind of spin yourself into a hole. And now it's the funniest thing. It's like I work hard, but I work really smart. And it could be because I have a fair amount of experience in the business now. But there are opportunities and projects that come to me. All I have to do is pick up the phone. I pick up the phone, and I think that when you relax, when you get to the point where you can relax and have confidence in who you are and what you're capable of doing, and learn to say no and have healthy boundaries, then it comes to you. It just really comes to you.
That's great. That's great advice. Yeah. And again, I appreciate you being candid about what you walked through with dissolving a marriage in the middle of your business, because that's real, and people are experiencing that every day.
Yeah, they
business women right now as we speak.
They are, and I'm not sure if you know that I wrote a book, and I wrote the book out of kind of desperation. I started off journaling because at the time of my divorce, we were a pretty high-profile couple, and we employed a lot of people. And I just felt like I had nowhere to turn for confidentiality or counsel outside of my immediate family and my minister. And so I just started journaling. And so that's how this book came about. And I started taking stories from women all over the country. And so that was my source of healing and relief. So
And what's that book called?
The book is called Death of a Fairy Tale, Embracing Life with Dignity After Divorce.
Excellent. Hopefully that'll be one of the books you share later.
Perhaps. Although I'm an avid reader, I'd read everyone's books.
Okay. So let's talk now specifically about the unique challenges African American women business owners face.
Okay.
I have a list. Let me know which one resonates with you, that you can share something that you may have walked through. Okay. Some of the challenges that African American women business owners face specific to our culture is with family. They don't understand your entrepreneurial walk, possibly. With friends may not have owned their own businesses. Role models, no one to call on, like we were speaking in the intro for Jessica Alba. She had someone to call on. Mm-hmm. Knowing business terms and just how to run a business is another. Seeking capital, not knowing where or how to go about that. And juggling being a single parent or a single woman in business.
Ding, 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 ding.
Ding, ding. We found it, right? Okay. Well, let's stop right there.
It is really difficult being an entrepreneur and being a single parent because, number one, your children, if you have children, everyone does not have children, but I will say as a single parent, if you have children, that must be your top priority. Mm-hmm. And it really was a challenge for me. It's funny because when my kids were young, and I would have this joke with them that for many years, of course, I was off campus and didn't work out of the house. Okay. And once I brought the business home, to have a better handle on juggling the kiddos. If they would come and interrupt me, I would tell them that Mommy's on Elm Street because that's where my business office used to be. Uh-huh. And so that, they would come in and want all kinds of attention and snacks or whatever when they were younger. And I would say, they're like, are you on Elm Street? I'm like, I'm on Elm Street. So I love it. You have to have some challenges there. But what's interesting? Over time, we started doing a very large quantity of handmade baskets, and sometimes I would even have my kids and their friends to help. And it was really cool being able to use the house as a place for staging and for them to see firsthand what Mommy did. And yes. And these were, we sent baskets to people like Condoleezza Rice and Patti LaBelle and did work for Bob Johnson and HBO. So these weren't things that were looking handmade. It was just, just happened to be where I officed. I was probably a little bit of a trailblazer in terms of working out of the home because, there used to be kind of, a stigma that maybe somebody was failing or whatever if they couldn't afford to be in a skyscraper. But for me, it just made a lot of sense. And back in the 90s when this happened, there were actually a lot of articles written about me and my business in terms of me working out of home. And back then they coined it as being a mompreneur. Mm-hmm. A mompreneur. That's what it's called. Instead of an entrepreneur, it's a mompreneur. So it's doable, but you have to really be able to set boundaries and know when to you have to know when to be able to shut down.
Great. That's excellent.
I call it the 30-second commute back in the day.
Yeah. Not in that hour and a half traffic.
Right.
Way.
There you go.
Yep. I love it. The 30-second commute. So you mentioned that your father was an entrepreneur.
He was. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so the question is, did you grow up with entrepreneurial examples? Or are you a first-generation entrepreneur? And if you did have that example, how do you think that influenced you as an entrepreneur?
You know what? When I went to my father, the original name of my company was Mars Promotional Services, and I named it in honor of my now deceased father. And I can remember when I was, parents always want you to have, it's a joke, some people say have that good government job, but in my case I had a corporate job. And when I tested the water, stuck my toe in and said, Dad, I'm thinking about leaving FritoLay, and I was holding my breath thinking, this man is going to tell me I am nuts.
Yes.
And when he said, I think that's a great idea, I almost fell out.
Wow.
And I knew I was onto something, because even though my father was a self-made man, he believed in making sure that you have nest eggs. And I was making a lot of money back then, and I just thought, oh my God. So he was like the last bastion. It's like if my dad said okay, and when he green lighted me, I couldn't run out the door fast enough. I was so excited. I mean, he was not in corporate. Called him the honest hustler. He had so many initiatives. He had a burger joint in South Central LA and was able to really put our family in a lovely lifestyle. This is a man with an 8th grade education. He also owned part of a hunting lounge and lodge, and he had a janitorial business. He owned a lot of properties spotted throughout the city. And again, this is a man with an 8th grade education, but he had an amazing work ethic, and better than the work ethic was his just compassion and passion for people. And he made everyone feel like a king or queen, no matter if they were drunk on the street or indeed, someone who was running a corporation. So I think I got it from him. And I know that, he's smiling in heaven as I trudge through. But his business was not near as complicated as mine. I think sometimes we take ourselves and our businesses too seriously.
Excellent. Wow. So there are many articles online about entrepreneurs and their success stories or challenges that they had to overcome. But there are very few about current day women and what they've gone through, and definitely not specific articles sharing what African American businesswomen have gone through. So again, kind of going back to that a previous question, what did you do when you got stuck, overwhelmed, ran out of money, or possibly felt like quitting?
Well, like I said, which time?
Right.
But you know what? Here's the thing. I recently moved back to Los Angeles from Dallas. I was in Dallas for 32 years, and it was always my dream to come home. I really never wanted to leave, but I had some pretty amazing opportunities, and so I left. And I just felt burnout. I felt total burnout. As much as I love working with many of my clients, sometimes people can they can wear your nerves, if I can go there. And I was just tired. So I packed it up and I moved home, and I made the distinction that, you know what, with the type of business that I'm in, because I am a service provider, I'm a consultant, I can do this from anywhere. And I especially like doing it from the beach. And do you know, ever since I gave myself permission to come home, I sold a pretty sizable house. And I luckily, through the divorce process or whatever, that's the one thing I held on to it. I, never went into foreclosure or whatever, but that was the one asset that I knew it was going to be my ticket to freedom. And it was. And so once I sold the house, I downsized briefly and went to a condo with anticipation of moving home. And for a large part, these first 8 months, I was on sabbatical. I put myself on hiatus, and it has been amazing. It gave me a chance to regroup and rethink. And my original plan was to be a full-time author and motivational speaker. And I don't mind telling you, I was like, I'm going to kill this baby, and the baby wouldn't die. And it's like the business has just flourished like crazy. So now I'm looking for successors and other people to help rebuild it, but it has been amazing. It is mind-blowing, the opportunity that has come, and I think it's because I'm not in a do-or-die mindset anymore.
Yes. Yeah, it's a nice place to be in.
Yeah. I worked hard to get here, though, trust me.
But when you were in that do-or-die situation, what did you do? Did you reach out to mentors? Did you just cry yourself to sleep at night? What did you do, and how did you work past it?
Kept plugging. And you know what? It landed me in the hospital. I'll be straight up honest. It landed me in the hospital, and I can remember, you know what, I had a stress-related heart attack. And I want your listeners to hear this, because I believe that people think that they're, you know, again, nothing will happen to them and they're the wanderlust, and that is not true. Your body will tell you, even if your mind thinks it's still rolling, your body will say, oh, really? Oh, okay, you're going to abuse me? Okay, well, let me show you what I can do. And I can remember being so prideful. I was in the hospital with an IV in my arm, and I had a bid due for a client, and I didn't tell her I was in the hospital.
Wow. Wow.
You know, I was trying to push through it, and I had friends like, are you nuts? Are you nuts? And that's
right.
when I knew, you know what, I'm working too hard.
That was
try
your
this
first
another
book.
way. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Don't
well,
feel
I mean,
sorry,
sometimes we have hard lessons, and thank God that you were able to, you know, have that opportunity to get it right the second time.
You do.
Yes.
You do.
So, Deborah, what didn't you have when you were building your business that you wish you would have had?
What didn't I have? You know, I don't, no disrespect, because he's a very brilliant person, but my husband ended up being my business partner, and we did not share the same values. And so had I had a business partner that had the same values, I have a tendency to be risk averse, actually. You know, I'm creatively bold, but in terms of when it comes to money, I feel like steady as it goes wins the race, and he was very bullish on expansion, and that just put so much stress on me. It was, you know, I was the creative, he was the operational person, but I just felt like in many instances I just had the weight of the world on me, that I was carrying everyone on my back, and that was really tough. So, as I look into the golden years of my business, which are the most exciting years of the business, I'm now looking to collaborate with actually possibly some friends from business school. These are people that I've trusted, I've known many, many years, that, you know, I would give them a blank check. I'd give them a blank check and the keys to my house and everything else. And so that's, to me, the best part of building a business is when you have people rowing in the boat with you that really have the same vision and the same work ethic.
Yes.
And it just makes it so much easier. You don't have to do everything yourself. And I would rather have a nice piece of a huge pie than own the whole tart.
And that role, that's perfect, because I was just about to ask you about collaboration, but you can finish that point. Go ahead.
Oh, I totally believe in collaboration, but you have to make sure that you do your homework on the people that you're looking to collaborate with. And I would say the first and foremost is, what is their integrity? What is their ability? I'm working on a project now with a dear friend from graduate school, and if she tells me she's going to have copy or whatever to me at 2:00, I can take it to the bank all day long.
Yes.
And that's just the way we roll, and we're going after some major accounts, and it's so exciting, and it's fun, and it's, you know, it's invigorating. So I think you have to align yourself with people who have the same mindset, the same work ethic, people whose strengths might be your weaknesses, so that you complement one another, which is really,
even
really
if that's
key.
uncomfortable sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? One of the things as a business owner, particularly when you have subordinates, is, for me, it is a drain if they are not bringing something to the party, a better way, a more efficient thing. When somebody is always looking to you for the answer, that is, I call it the ultimate brain drain.
Yes. Yes, it is.
But some people feel more comfortable feeling like they're the smartest person in the room. I think that's nuts. I think you're smart when you get smarter people in the room. That can really be the wind beneath your wing.
And can still feel good about yourself.
Exactly. Because I can remember going on vacation years ago, not long after the divorce, and I took the kids to Europe and a niece. And I had employees blowing up my phone in England, in Ireland. Are you serious? You all can't solve this? Really?
Wow.
When I got back to the state, I had multiple $100 phone bills because I had people calling me across the ocean for the simplest of things.
And good for you. You evidently kept on with your vacation.
I had to.
Yeah.
My baby was singing at the Westminster Abbey. I was going to hear him sing. I didn't have a choice.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, yeah, in terms of collaboration, I wanted to get your opinion on collaboration instead of competition.
Right. I know. You know, we're so busy. Sometimes people say, well, who are your competitors? Myself.
Yes.
I don't look at that at this point. I really don't. I may sound terribly naive, but I just don't. Not at this stage in the game, because I really know what my secret sauce is. And so as an entrepreneur, you're only as good as your last project. You're only as good as your last project. And so I challenge myself, but I don't look to see what other people are doing. And I thank God that's why there's certain phone calls that I get that other people never get, because I have some time in with these clients, and they know that if I tell them I'm going to do something, they can take it to the bank all day long.
That's excellent. One of the things I share with business owners, especially women, is how they can succeed without having to compete. And
Exactly.
They can do that by implementing the power of positioning and leveraging the media to build their brand. So I'm a firm believer. Yeah. I'm a firm believer of it. There's no need to compete. I mean, if you really focus on a niche within your industry and own it, you can be very successful.
See, and that's what it sounds like you're doing, is understanding the point of difference. And we all have point of difference. And you know what? Each of us have such individual gifts. If you think about, ministers, everyone needs spiritual food or whatever, but a minister can't minister to everybody.
Nope. Doesn't keep their attention, doesn't reach their heart. Yeah.
It doesn't. And so I love Bishop Jakes. I
do too.
Totally brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm in Los Angeles now, but I'll tell you what, I love Joel Osteen, but I go to my local church because that's where I get fed. And then and quite frequently I will look at, I'll go back and look at the reruns or whatever, but point of difference is very important. I want to share something with you very quickly, and that is, as I, let's just say, put a fresh paint on my company, the thing that is really my passion, and here's the thing, I told you I wish I could just write and speak all day long, and that's not viable for me at this point.
Yeah.
So I finally said, okay, what can I do so that I can have my vegetables and my cake at the same time? And so what I'm doing is, with my business, I'm now mentoring women who have had challenges, life challenges. Domestic violence is very much a hot button for me. Emotional abuse is a hot button. Women who've been incarcerated and separated from their children is a hot button. And now I'm starting to weave those women into my business model. So where there's an opportunity where I need gift wrapping and couture basket services, I'm teaching them that skill set. I'm paying them to do it to help supplement their income. But more importantly, hopefully I'm giving them some pearls and some nuggets and some inspiration, either by myself or other women that I bring around them, to help them along the way. Because I think a lot of times this depression, which is unfortunately so pervasive in our society now, depression is coming about, particularly with women, because they have such low self-esteem. They don't have a sense of purpose. They have no sense of direction. And so now I'm combining the two, and I'm being very transparent with my clients, and I'm saying, you know what? It may cost a little bit more to do packaging on this, but look at the women you're pouring into. And you know what? They're loving it. And so now I'm in the process of developing the company's model to be a social enterprise versus just a straight for-profit company. So everything that we do, we take a little bit and seed back into the community to help women, because women, like I say, if mama's broken, everyone's broken.
Indeed. That's excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's so important for our audience to hear.
It's my truth.
And I commend you for that. That's excellent. So I'm going to change directions here for just one moment. I'm going to shout out a complaint that I have and see if you can help me with it.
Okay.
Our Black businessmen are showing us out, and that's not going to work. Tyler Perry has shared his homeless to success story. Eric Thomas, the motivational hip-hop preacher, has the homeless to PhD story. You know, there's the Les Browns. But us women, we've got to get our stories out and document it so African-American women in business have some inspiration when they're feeling low and they're searching online to learn what other women did in challenging times. So, Deborah, I ask you, and I'll help you, let's kind of try to cultivate it here.
Okay.
What is your rags to riches story, or what's your hero story?
You know what? I am so glad you asked that question. And
Good.
You know, and I will tell you why. Because women's problems, and I hope no one throws tomatoes, we have a problem being transparent. We're so concerned about how people are going to judge us. To me, I far more admire someone who has had a rags to riches story versus someone who's been steady she goes with wins the race.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, which time do you, I'm going to give you a rags to riches story. Here it goes. And I've never shared this publicly, but right around the time President Barack Obama was elected, I had hit the proverbial wall financially. And I can remember being down to this is true story, my last $50 to last me for almost 2 weeks. One kiddo had gone off to college. One was still, I think she was still in the house. She may have been in boarding school. I don't know. Anyway, this sister here was broke.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what am I going to do with $50? Back then, gas was $5 a gallon. And I had $50 for gas, food, and whatever. And I can remember having my water cut off that night. I had a bunch of kids coming over to watch the elections, and a friend had my water turned back on for me. And not long after that, I was on a trip, and I came up with the Barack Obama holiday ornament. And I got to tell you, I made so much money. It was almost embarrassing. And what a blessing and timely. And I think that when we get right to the wall, we always get pulled back in. And those ornaments were shipped to Australia, to Hawaii, to England. There are several senators that have them.
And they're legacy pieces.
I know, right?
Oh, even better.
The best thing about it is, that I was able to hire so many people to help me pack them out. Because, again, here goes the collaboration. I couldn't do all that by myself. Every time my computer was on, you've got mail, go to the mailbox. There was money. Money was coming through the fax. Money was coming through it was crazy.
Money cometh.
It was crazy, but it's because I was willing to accept, my situation. I didn't put it on a megaphone.
Sure.
That was my reality, and it was really rags to riches. I can remember being in Walmart with that last $50, which I never shopped at Walmart, thinking I was angry at the people with food stamps. I'm like, they can afford Doritos. I can't.
Sure. That's real. Yeah.
So I think women need to be more vocal and stop worrying about how they're going to be judged if the problem is that they don't want to share vulnerability because they think of something, if they're vulnerable, then it seems weak. But humility is not a negative thing.
No, it's not. And if you have walked through that season, it should be a bit easier to talk about it.
I didn't walk through, I crawled through it.
That's right. Crawled, but got through.
So yeah, I tell the story. I tell the story about my heart attack. I tell the story about the water being cut off. Why not? Because it's my truth.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for that. So see, now we're working on getting some of the stories.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think we can move forward and turn that growing number, that statistic that I shared earlier of African American women in business into successful million, multi-million, and billion-dollar businesses?
I think it comes back to First of all, understanding your gift. Because, like I said, your gift really will make room for you, but you have to operate in the sense of knowing that what you're doing is going to serve mankind. And I don't mean to sound overly noble, but whatever you're doing, hopefully it's going to make the world a better place. A lot of times,
at some level, sure.
Yeah, because I ask people all the time, what's your purpose? They're like, I don't know. I'm like, well, do you think you were birthed just to be landfill? So what's your purpose? And that's something that we have to breed early and put that into our children and help them. And if you don't have children, certainly there's some young person that you are inspiring. I'm going to segue for a second and tell you that technically I'm in sales. I'm a marketing strategist, but I'm in sales. And, all of us really are salespeople. If you think about it, you have to sell an idea. And that's the thing. If you're in sales, you have to feel like whatever you're selling is going to serve a need or a purpose. A lot of people look at sales as begging, and it's not begging. If you don't have something unique to offer, it is begging, I guess. But the question is, what is your point of difference? And whatever women are looking to do, whether it is to be, the best importer of human hair, or whether it's to be a rocket scientist, or to have a spa, what have you, you have to look at it in terms of fulfilling a need. Otherwise, you will not succeed. So it's flipping the script on how you perceive the situation, I guess.
So what impact, Deborah, would you like to make as an African-American woman in business over the next 10 years?
I alluded to it earlier, I think, and that is to give women permission to be authentically themselves. That's what I want to do. If I have to do it by sharing my vulnerabilities or my former stories, of failure, of weakness, of restart, I think that if I do that, then it may give people be more courageous in putting their toe in the water and talking about their vulnerabilities, and more importantly, reaching out for help. The problem is, you have not because you ask not. And so many times we're so prideful. Well, if I tell her I need a loan, or I need to borrow some money, or I need some help, I need to watch my children, what are they going to think? We're not superwomen. And we put these big S's on our chest, and we place, just some really unrealistic expectations on ourselves. So
yes, we do. And if someone judges you, they judge you.
They judge you. So that's what I'm going to do, is I want to continue to create collaborative opportunities for women. I'm not going to make money on everything I do, but if I hear of an opportunity and I think it fits some woman's niche and I feel like she has the talent to perform, I'm going to pick up the phone and call her. I do it all the time, or send an email or a text and say, hey, look, did you hear about the XYZ? You got to check this out. And when there's opportunity specifically with my business, I'm going to buy from women, and I'm going to try to help cultivate women in terms of their gifts. That's what I want to do. Very nice.
So at this juncture in your business, do you have a mentor or a business coach?
I do have a business life coach. I've just retained one. She is amazing, and I had no clue in terms of, they don't solve the problem for you. They help guide you. They're almost like a guide, a tour guide within your mind. You really come up with your own answers. They just kind of lead you to the water, if you will.
Nice.
And so I do, and she checks in with me. I can't say that I have a mentor right now, but I do have some amazing advocates. And maybe sometimes that's even better, because the advocates are out there looking out for me, and they're telling people about me and my company, and that's pretty amazing. So I do have, and you know what else I have? Even better than an advocate? I have prayer warriors. I have people that pray for me. I don't even know they're praying for me.
How about that?
And so to me, you cannot get anything better than that. And I'm still in a prayer group out of Dallas. They get up a little early. It's 6 o'clock there and 4 o'clock here. So that's hit or miss right now, but I catch up with them when I can, and I'm in the process of joining one here in Los Angeles.
Excellent. And do you have a suggestion for Black women in business on how to approach or seek a mentor to get advice? I mean, successful women are very busy and sometimes hard to reach. Do you have a suggestion on how someone could reach out to someone like yourself or someone else?
Sure. I think the number one thing is to do their homework and understand what it is that you got to know what you're asking for. So it's a matter of doing the homework. I will tell you a couple of my best employees actually read about me in a magazine, or they saw me on a radio or TV, heard me on radio or TV talk show, and they sent me letters. And I didn't hire them because they stroked my ego. I hired them because they showed me incentive and that they had the guts and the courage to go ask. And with me being in a sales-oriented company, that's what I need, is someone to be bold enough to make the ask. So it's a matter of doing the research, I would say. And I would tell you that people that want mentorship in the same industry, they need to be careful, though, because there are a couple of people that I had considered mentoring, and I realized that they literally were just trying to figure out what my secret sauce was. So you have to be very, very careful and understand, as a mentor, what people's motives are, because sometimes they're not really so honorable. And
as a prospective mentoree, that ask that you mentioned, what would that look like? Can you give, what would appeal to you? You said a letter. Some other women have recommended that you don't come full on, will you be my mentor? Because that's kind of overwhelming, almost asking, like, can we get married?
Yeah, well, I think sometimes, too, mentees just want you to pour into them. And I think that prospective mentees need to flip the script and say, what can I do for the mentor?
Yes.
But people often, when they think about a mentor, it's typically a one-way street, and it really should not. It should not be that. I have a mentee who is just lovely, and from time to time, she would just drop me a line and say, how are you doing? Did you remember to do the XYZ, whatever? And that means the world to me. So people who want to be mentored, they need to look at what can they do for the mentor as well, versus just it being, a take. It should be give and take. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it.
And you're sticking to it. And do you know, I know you're just relocated back here in Los Angeles, but do you know of any organizations that provide mentorship or great suggestions for women in business or African American women in business?
I don't, but I will look into, I'm actually about to start a blog for my business, and so I will look at addressing that, and I will post it. Of course, there's the Minority Purchasing Council here. I know that that's here. I'm not very engaged with them at this point. And I'm not because I'm so new to the area. I left when I was just a knee-high to a grasshopper, so I don't really know the city.
Well, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah.
Yay me.
So what we would love is to know Deborah's 5 success tips.
Oh, boy. You know what? I'll give you the success tips for today because they really evolve. Depends on where you are. I know I've sounded preachy, but the first thing is keep God at the center of your business. And I tell people that God is my CEO. That's who I really take instructions from. And I get very, very quiet and prayerful when I'm making major decisions and sometimes routine decisions. So that's number 1. Number 2 is, no matter what, you have to take time to think and regroup. Because if you're so busy spinning, you can't strategize, you can't reflect, you can't evaluate. So take time to think and regroup. I'm really big on collaboration. Now that could be maybe, well, God is first, but collaboration is really big. I think that you need to surround yourself with people who have similar values and are very smart, maybe smarter than you in certain areas. Like, I'm not a techie, but I keep young people around me.
That's right.
Bring me up to challenge. So that's number 4. Keep people around you that are smart, and that have strengths that maybe could be perceived as your weakness. And you know what the fifth one is?
What's
Don't be afraid to fail. It took me a long time to figure that out because, you see, I would not have had health issues had I not been afraid to fail. Because I would have said, you know what? I can take a break now. I can let this project forego. I don't have to, chase after this. So if you're not afraid of failure, I really believe you'll be extremely successful. But
Wonderful.
Failure is an inhibitor.
Failure is an inhibitor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. And how about some recommended books? Can you recommend 2 books for us and repeat your book as well?
Well, yes, I have 3 books, but the 2 books I would recommend that are not written by me. Number one, first and foremost, it is fabulous off the chain. Shonda Rhimes, A Year of Yes. Shonda Rhimes, A Year of Yes, and I think that just dropped, maybe it dropped in January.
Wow, hot off the press. Thank you for that.
Fabulous. I won't even spill on that one, but you got to get that. And the other one I really love is Destiny by T.D. Jakes. And I think that, first of all, Bishop Jakes is brilliant. He is a brilliant man, but there are often things that he tells us that we already really know. It's the way that he packages it and puts it together on such simplistic terms that I think Destiny is probably his best book yet. Because that's
Wonderful.
What life is all about. And if I may do just a selfish brag, Death of a Fairy Tale is my book, and it's about to be re-released nationally. And it is a powerful, powerful book, and I can say it because really I was just the conduit. So Death of a Fairy Tale does not just address divorce. It's any fairy tale or any nightmare in your life that could happen, whether it be an illness or bankruptcy or mental breakdown or whatever it is, just having the courage to prevail past something devastating. So,
thank you so much for those shares.
Thank you. I appreciate you calling me up.
And Deborah, thank you sincerely for taking the time to give back and share your journey as a Black woman in business specifically. Thank you.
It was my absolute honor.
And is there one last nugget you might want to leave with inspiration?
I think that just live in truth. Live in truth. In everything that you do, live in truth. The rest of it will take care of itself.
And where can our listeners get more information about you?
My website is giftedbydezyn, DEZYN.com. My professional Facebook right now is Dare to Reign. And I would really appreciate if your listeners would like it because as we move forward with social enterprise, part of the proceeds from my company will pour into the Dare to Reign Foundation, which is being formed. And I'm also on Twitter and Instagram on Dare to Reign.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining the show. And everyone remember, lead with value and the revenue will follow.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.